So, up to the last point, so we were talking about subgrain formation in titanium alloys during the process of creep, and the subgrain formation happens because the dislocations that are getting hindered during their motion try to overcome those barriers by recovery. So, the recovery process requires high temperature. So, and that is how you have the subgrains where the boundaries of the subgrains are consisting of arrays of dislocations, and the subgrain region is more or less strain free. Now, the question that arises is what will happen if the material would not experience recovery. Well, the point is, if the material does not experience recovery, then creep may or may not happen at the initial applied stress. Most probably it will stop, or the creep deformation rates will be so low that for all practical purposes it will be imperceptible. Now, the reason behind this is that creep, as we understand, is a competition between the mechanisms of strain hardening and the mechanisms of recovery. So, as creep is a plastic deformation process, so when creep is happening, you have dislocation dislocations getting generated as well as dislocation motion, and this leads to strain hardening. And when strain hardening happens, the strength of the material increases, that is the flow stress of the material increases, and at some point of time the flow stress would become higher than the initial applied stress, and so the material would stop creeping unless there is recovery which is assisted by temperature, and recovery allows these dislocations to overcome the barriers to motion. So, recovery is important for creep deformation, and plastic deformation by the applied stress and overcoming barriers to plastic deformation by recovery, this is more or less what creep is. Now, one of the earliest studies on creep, the time dependence of strain was carried out by Andrade, and Andrade, based on his experiments, he proposed the following equation. So, Andrade was trying to understand the time dependence of plastic strain, and what he found out was whenever a material is subjected to a certain load, there is initially there is some instantaneous strain, and then there is some you have some instantaneous strain, and then there is some initial flow which gradually disappears, and then finally the material undergoes deformation under constant flow conditions and experiences elongation under constant flow conditions. And based on these observations, he proposed the following equation. Now, here in this equation, epsilon is the creep strain, the plastic strain that the material is experiencing, and epsilon naught is the instantaneous strain, that is the strain that the material exhibits or experiences right on during the application of the stress, and T is the time or the duration of creep, and beta and kappa are constants. Now, if you recall, we are saying a creep curve technically looks like that. You have a instantaneous strain, and then you have a primary creep region, and then it goes to a secondary creep region, and then following it goes to failure in the tertiary creep regime. But in Andrade experiments, he only found out or looked at the instantaneous strain, and then the primary creep region, and then he looked at the steady state region. Now, in his equation, the transient creep, that is the primary creep region, the primary creep stage is described by the constant beta, and the constant k or the kappa represents the secondary creep stage, where the secondary creep stage is basically talking about extension per unit length that proceeds at a constant rate. And if kappa is equal to 0, then basically the curve will be limited only up to the stage 1 or only up to the primary or transient creep region only. So, while this was one of the earliest equations to describe creep, there were some objections or objections raised to the Andrade's equation, and one of the major objection to the Andrade's equation is that it predicts infinite creep rate at the instant of loading, that is when t is very small or when t approaches 0, then the creep rate approaches a value of infinity, which is considered to be unrealistic. So, the way to look at it is if you write epsilon is equal to epsilon naught 1 plus beta t 1 over 3 epsilon kappa t. So, epsilon can be written as epsilon naught into e to the power kappa t plus epsilon naught beta e to the power kappa t into t to the power 1 by 3. So, d epsilon by dt, which is equal to epsilon dot, then becomes kappa epsilon naught e to the power kappa t plus beta epsilon naught kappa t to the power 1 by 3 into e to the power kappa t plus 1 by 3 e to the power kappa t into t to the power minus 2 by 3. So, if you look at this equation, if t tends to 0, then since epsilon dot has a term that includes t to the power minus 2 by 3. So, epsilon dot will automatically tend to infinity, and that is what was the primary objection raised to the Andrea's equation, because it is not it is unable to explain how epsilon dot will tend to infinity, which is not true. Subsequent years, Garofalo proposed the following equation to describe the creep curve, and this equation was supposed to overcome the limitations of the Andrea's equation. So, in this equation Garofalo proposed that epsilon is equal to epsilon naught, and then there is a primary creep term and there is a steady state creep term. So, here epsilon is the creep strain, epsilon naught is the instantaneous strain, epsilon t is the limit for transient creep or the primary creep region, and r is the ratio of the transient creep rate to the transient creep strain, and epsilon s dot is the steady state creep rate. However, what is very clear from this equation is that the Garofalo equation is only describing only the primary and the secondary creep stage, and it does not talk anything about the tertiary creep stage. However, an extension of the Garofalo equation can be made to include the tertiary creep regime, and this was done later by Evans and Wilshire, who showed that the creep curve could be described by the following equation. So, you could have epsilon is equal to epsilon naught, and this is basically up to this point it is the Garofalo equation, and then they added an additional term for the tertiary creep regime. Here epsilon L, which is the new term that they introduced, epsilon L is equal to the smallest strain deviation from the steady state at the onset of tertiary creep. So, if you look at the curve epsilon versus t, so the point or the smallest strain that takes the material away from steady state. So, if this is the extrapolation of steady state, so the smallest strain deviation which takes the material from away from steady state into tertiary creep, that is what epsilon L is, and the onset of tertiary creep, and p is a constant and TOT is the time for onset of tertiary creep. So, probably somewhere around here this will be TOT, and the other terms are the same as before. However, there are other kinds of creep behavior, also creep equations that people have observed. One such creep equation is the logarithmic creep equation. This equation is mentioned here. So, epsilon is equal to epsilon naught plus alpha ln of 1 plus gamma t, where alpha and gamma are constants. Though what this equation suggests is that the strain rate of deformation slowly tends to 0 at long durations. So, and this kind of an equation is useful for describing exhaustion creep. So, if you look at the this point, the equation suggests that the strain rate of deformation slowly tends to 0 at long durations. That is very clear if we take this equation, epsilon is equal to epsilon naught plus alpha ln of 1 plus gamma t. So, d epsilon over dt is equal to alpha over 1 plus gamma t into gamma. So, that becomes alpha gamma by 1 plus gamma t. So, the strain rate in during logarithmic creep, the strain rate of deformation is basically alpha gamma by 1 plus gamma t. So, when t tends to very high values, so say t is very large, then the denominator term this becomes very large. So, epsilon dot decreases, and probably you can say it tends towards 0. So, so the epsilon dot eventually tends to 0. So, t is very large, say for example, t tends to infinity, then epsilon dot tends to 0. So, this kind of a behavior is also known as the exhaustion creep behavior, and the point is when would you expect exhaustion creep. So, if you plot epsilon dot versus t, what you eventually see is something like that, epsilon dot tending to 0. and one could expect this kind of a behavior where under creep conditions where the temperature is low. So, if your temperature is low, then what would happen is the material will not be able to recover. So, since creep involves a competition between mechanisms of strain hardening and mechanisms of recovery. So, when if the material is unable to recover, then what would happen is because of strain hardening, the flow stress of the material exceeds the applied stress, and at that point of time the material will stop creeping or the creep rate would tend towards 0. So, that is when you would expect exhaustion creep. So, exhaustion creep can be expected at very low test temperatures where the processes of recovery are suppressed. So, we looked at 3 equations. We looked at the Andreads equation, we looked at Garofalo's equation, and we also have looked at exhaustion creep, which is the logarithmic equation. So, the question that arises is, what is the basis of the creep equation? Well, when we talk of Andreads equation, Andrade used an empirical approach to come up with his equation. So, he basically relied on his experimental observations, the observations that he made during his creep test, and based on those observations he came up with his equation. Whereas, in the case of Garofalo, Garofalo proposed his equation considering substructural changes occurring during the creep deformation and by considering creep as a first order kinetic reaction. So, Garofalo looked at creep as a first order kinetic process, and based on that he suggested his equation. Now, what is a first order kinetic reaction? Well, in first order kinetic reaction, the rate of the reaction is directly proportional to the concentration of the reactant. So, if you have a reaction like this going on A plus B giving rise to C plus D, where A and B are the reactants and C plus D are the products, C and D are the products, then the rate of the reaction, if it turns out to be of this form. So, if dA over dt, which is the change in concentration of A, if it turns out to be directly proportional to the concentration of A itself, then that is known as the first order kinetic reaction. Of course, there is a negative term here. The negative term actually implies that the concentration of A is decreasing with time. So, when you have something like this, then that is known as the first order kinetic reaction. This a similar concept was used for describing creep. So, if we use first order kinetic approach to understanding creep, then we will be able to derive the equation that we know about creep. What Don and co-workers did was they looked at transient and steady state creep as a first order reaction, and by using that they came up with the creep equation. So, the creep rate was is known to be decreasing in the transient creep region and to approach a steady state value. So, that kind of a behavior can be modeled by using an equation like this. So, the decreasing rate of strain rate in the primary creep eventually leading to a steady state creep, that kind of a behavior can be captured by this following equation. So, here you have a term tau. So, tau is the relaxation time for rearrangement of dislocations during transient creep controlled by dislocation climb process. So, the underlying assumption here is that the plastic deformation is being carried out by dislocations, and dislocation climb is a necessary mechanism for recovery to happen, and when dislocation climb is happening, there is some amount of rearrangement of dislocations that happening, and that rearrangement of dislocations has a certain relaxation time tau. So, this is basically the equation, and epsilon dot is the instantaneous creep rate and epsilon s dot is the steady state creep rate. So, if we use this equation, then we will be able to derive the entire creep equation. So, let us go through the derivation, and we can find out how it will lead us to the Garofalo's equation. So, if we take d epsilon dot minus d epsilon s dot by dt is equal to minus epsilon dot minus epsilon dot s over tau. So, this is the first order kinetic equation. So, this implies d epsilon that is equal to minus 1 by tau dt. And now, if we carry out integration of this, so that will lead us to ln of epsilon dot minus epsilon dot s is equal to minus t by tau plus some constant k. So, this implies epsilon dot minus epsilon s dot is equal to e to the power t over tau into e to the power k. And so, tau as I mentioned is the relaxation time for rearrangement of dislocations, and 1 over tau can also be written as r, which is the rate of exhaustion of transient creep. So, this implies epsilon dot minus epsilon dot is equal to e to the power minus r t into e to the power k. So, this implies epsilon dot is equal to epsilon s dot e plus e to the power minus r t into e to the power k. So, d epsilon by d t is equal to this implies integration of d epsilon is equal to integration of epsilon s dot So, at time t is equal to 0, we get the instantaneous strain epsilon naught. So, at t is equal to 0, we get the instantaneous strain E epsilon is equal to epsilon naught. So, therefore, the bounds of the integration will be epsilon naught to epsilon and is equal to 0 to t epsilon s dot dt plus 0 to t e to minus r t e to the power k into dt. So, this gives epsilon minus epsilon naught is equal to epsilon dot s into t, and the other integration gives us r into e to the power k into 1 minus e to the power minus r t. So, this implies epsilon is equal to epsilon naught plus r into e to the power k 1 minus e to the power minus r t plus epsilon s dot into t. So, this is very similar, this equation that we have arrived at following this derivation is very similar to the Garofalo's equation, and if you notice r into e to the power k can be written as epsilon t, which is the transient strain. So, then this becomes the Garofalo equation epsilon naught epsilon is equal to epsilon naught into epsilon t into 1 minus e to the power minus r t plus epsilon s dot into t. So, this is how using the first order kinetic approach one can derive the Garofalo's equation. So, this allows the creep equation to be understood by physics based mechanism. So, this is basically the foundation, the physics based mechanisms are the foundation of this equation.